Nigel Farage, campaigning in Essex, didn't sound like a man about to lead a people's army uprising against tax avoidance.
But most people who are legally doing their best, with their financial situation, aren't trying to avoid tax themselves. They're trying for their children to avoid paying tax.
So is some tax avoidance okay?
Well, if things are legal in life, you can take a moral stand on them, but you can't say they're actually outright plain bad and wrong.
Well, the Ukip leader, Nigel Farage, has said he doesn't agree with positive discrimination. Speaking in Canvey Island today, Mr Farage assured a voter who said his friends were unable to join the fire service because they were white men, saying he didn't believe in the practice. He said Ukip chose candidates on merit because it was fairer.
Many of my friends are unable to even get a job in the London Fire Brigade for being white and from being British. They're actively recruiting women and those from ethnic minority backgrounds.
In fact, we've got a family friend who lives not very far from here who left the Grenadier Guards, tried to join the police and suffered the same problem.
Sure.
I don't believe in positive discrimination.
Sure.
Whether it's, look, we as a political party, the other parties have all female shortlists. We don't. We don't treat people on merit.
Nigel Farage chose Canvey Island in Essex today to launch what he calls UKIP's People's Army. He claims it'll shake the political establishment in the upcoming general election because the three main parties do not believe in Britain and that his party was the only one standing up for the little man. Our political editor Tim Donovan has more on this and joins us now. So Tim, first of all, why Essex?
Well, Riz, this was his first big set-piece event speech of the year, and the reason why he chose Essex is because they have such high hopes at the party for this area. Before he made this speech, he went walkabout in Canvey Island, went down to a boatyard, and they have high hopes of hanging on to Clacton and doing well in Castle Point and then in South Basildon and also in Thurrock, where they've recently selected, one of their senior officials, someone who was writing the manifesto. And as you say, the overarching theme is one of standing up for the little man, the small man, if you like, and giving them a voice against the establishment. And he said, Mr Farage, that he expected the campaign to be quite nasty, that there would be a lot of mud slung.
However beastly the establishment is to me, or to any of our candidates in winnable seats, however personal and nasty this campaign becomes, UKIP will rise above it, we will turn the other cheek, we will ignore their insults, and we will get on saying to the British people, we believe in Britain and we want your vote because we want change.
OK, so Tim, that's Essex, but what progress could they make in London?
Well, first off, Mr Farage claimed that UKIP was the only party that represented all parts of the United Kingdom. He said the kind of Conservatives were confined to the south and Labour, were concerned about their stronghold in the north. It kind of skipped over an inconvenient truth, which is about London, where the record shows that they haven't yet breached its battlements. But it may be that their significance is more the indirect impact that they end up having. And they started to show the kind of damage they could do to the Conservatives in the local elections last year, where the kind of vote they got, I think that 17% in Croydon, a little bit under that in Enfield, actually ensured that the Conservatives lost quite a few council seats. And it's possible that Conservative candidates in those marginal seats in the election are going to be vulnerable because of UKIP's vote.
OK, Tim, many thanks. Our political editor, Tim Donovan. Still,
Britain is heading for its first period of falling prices since current records began in 1989. Nigel Farage launches UKIP's election campaign and sets out his terms for supporting any minority government. Nigel Farage has launched UKIP's general election campaign, predicting that no party will secure a majority at Westminster on May the 7th. He said that UKIP would not prop up any government unless it offered an immediate referendum on Britain's membership of the European Union. Mr Farage went on to claim that UKIP would be seen as the only truly national political party in the UK. Our deputy political editor, James Landale, has the story.
Movie time at Canvey on the Essex Riviera. Popcorn and paparazzi, but the carpet was more purple than red. Star of the show was Nigel Farage, after weeks out of the limelight, making his premiere public appearance of the year.
There's 50 Shades of Grey starts today.
And his message today, he would never tie UKIP into coalition with another party, and he'd demand a high price before getting into bed with a minority government.
It is absolutely impossible that UKIP in Westminster would help one or other of the parties if they did not have a credible programme for a referendum, a proper, full, free and fair referendum conducted correctly and within the right timetable.
Apart from an immediate EU referendum, what else would UKIP demand as a price for its support?
I've made it clear that post May the 7th, if we find ourselves in the right position, the absolutely key issue is the referendum. That doesn't mean it would be the only one, but let's not presuppose, what negotiations might happen on May the 8th or afterwards.
So what might those other demands be? Well, UKIP wants tighter immigration controls, £3 billion more spent on health, and some tuition fees to be scrapped. But they've yet to make it absolutely clear how the party would fund these and other policies, nor have they set out their plans to cut the deficit. But this lack of detail doesn't seem to worry UKIP supporters.
So why vote UKIP? Is it because of their policies or because of their attitude?
It's their attitude, they're positive, and it's their policies. They want England to remain England.
It's just a change, isn't it? It's somebody new.
I think if you look at their whole manifesto, it's got a lot of holes in it. They've just seemed to have one idea, they've put that forward.
The reason Nigel Farage can talk so openly about what may or may not happen after the election is not just because the polls are suggesting there might be a hung parliament. It's because he is confident that there will be what he calls a good number of UKIP MPs at Westminster after May.
His opponents say that's overconfidence, and UKIP may win a few MPs at most. But Mr Farage has outperformed expectations in the past, and he's hoping to do so again. James Landell, BBC News, Canberra.
Nigel Farage today ruled out UKIP entering any coalition after the election and predicted his party would win significantly more than 2 or 3 seats. He chose a cinema on Canvey Island in Essex to make his first major speech of the campaign. Our deputy political editor, Chris Shipp, was there.
It was a cinema on the Essex seaside chosen by Nigel Farage today to launch his election campaign in a Conservative seat he's confident UKIP can win. And it must be said, this wide-open election campaign is likely to be more gripping than any film on show here, with the possible exception of this one, of course. But if the UKIP leader can captivate voters like this audience and return to Westminster with what he called a good number of new MPs, what will he do with them? Today he set out what he won't do.
But can I say now very clearly that we will not be going into coalition government with anybody.
He would, however, support the Conservatives if they commit to an EU referendum right away, no later than the summer. But will he have anything like the sort of power he's hoping for?
I doubt that even you will predict that you'll end up with 40 or 50 MPs, which is precisely what the SNP are heading for at the moment.
But what the
person that will have the power, will hold the balance of power, the kingmaker, will be Nicola Sturgeon, not Nigel Farage.
You're quite right. The SNP have radically changed Scottish politics, but don't underestimate in England and Wales the extent to which UKIP have changed politics.
So what is the extent of that change? You voted Conservative before,
yes.
But principally because of Europe, you're going to vote UKIP this time?
Well, yes.
And other things, obviously.
Yeah,
It's just not one.
Yeah, EU is a very big thing.
Yeah.
They are wasting so much money.
Right.
Somebody needs to stand up and listen. But as far as UKIP's concerned, I don't know. I'm worried about where I'm going to put my cross. I'm very worried.
UKIP popcorn was on sale today, and it's the voters of this seat and many others who will decide if Mr Farage has a part in the show after the election or if he'll merely be watching from the sidelines. Chris Shipp, ITV News, Essex.